Good afternoon, everyone. We certainly appreciate your patience this afternoon. You are in the Working Genius session. I hope this is where you're supposed to be, Working Genius. If not, we ask that you join us anyway. We're excited about today's session and our presenter, and we should have some good takeaways from this afternoon's session. If everyone could, if you are able, if you could put your video on, we would certainly appreciate that as well. We are a few minutes behind schedule, so we're going to jump right in. I am going to begin by introducing our presenter today. This afternoon, our presenter is Ken Hester. Ken has 20 plus years of leadership and pastoral experience. And prior to joining the ministry, Ken managed corporate franchises and coached basketball at the high school level. His heart for people is to see them come to experience their full potential in leadership and in life. So if you could, with some reactions, give us some hand claps and welcome Ken and into our session this afternoon. Hi, Ken. I'm turning it over to you.
Great. That's awesome. I know you're all thinking 20 years of leadership experience. He must have started when he was 9 years old or something, So I am actually 43 years old, so I got good genes. My mom she's 74 this year and probably looks like she's 57. So I got those genes. I am grateful for that. But it's great to see everybody here in the chat. We're trying to use the chat as much as possible. We'll do some presenting as well, but would love to just know, obviously I've got all your names, but if you type in there what city you're in or county, that'd be great. I'd love to see everybody's from. Erin Farmer is on. Erin is from Gastonia, I know for sure. So she, I will get into a little bit of my story here in a second, but I'm going to share screen for you guys. And let's see, let's see, where is my chat? I'm trying to look at it. I can't. There are my messages. There we go. Ashboro, Raleigh, Charlotte. Okay, we're gonna cross over here. A few things. Washington D.C. Nice. Like actual DC, Julie, or is that there's about 20 different connections. I have some friends in Gaithersburg, Maryland. That's why I asked specifically. Rocky Mount, Wake County, Pender County near Wilmington. Okay. Hendersonville, Wake County. 43 years young. Yes, that's right. Good. I know Gaithersburg's not DC, but DC is not DC. Like really, like, are you in DC? That's what we'll have to have a separate conversation about that. Welcome again, everybody. Let me go ahead and share my really quickly, and we'll start in on Working Genius. I've heard already that the Impact Conference has been wonderful. I don't know where you've been as a part of that conference. You've been a part of the whole thing, or this is your first breakout, or whatever it is, but thanks again for joining. Working Genius is something that is fairly new. I would say within the last year, Patrick Lencioni and the Table Group have launched Working Genius. And within that last, really it's only been, actually now that I think about it, it's been about 7 months since the very beginning of Working Genius. And it's been in work for about 2 years. But the Table Group and Patrick Lencioni is an incredible leader, has been around for a long time, based in the West Coast. He's done maybe one book you maybe recognize as 5 Dysfunctions of a Leader, and his incredible book, and a lot of things that flow out of this process are based off of the Table Group and his team. So being a part of that team and going through Working Genius certification was eye-opening. I think probably all of you, 20, 30 people that are on this call, have taken some kind of personality assessment. You've probably taken a Enneagram, a Strengths Finders, a Myers-Briggs, any number, the list can go on and on. The DISC assessment, there's been tons and tons of assessment out there. Most, if not all of them, are really more based on your personality. And what Patrick and the table group have done is with Working Genius, it's directly connected to how you work, how you get things done. And so with that, we wanted to make sure that you are set up for success and your team is set up for success, whether it's a staff team, whether it's your family, whether it's your board, whatever that looks like. So that's just kind of overall overview of Working Genius. We're going to get into the details of that as we go on. But again, I want to give you a little bit of insight to who I am, what this means. So me, my mom, I told you I get some great genes. My mom is Sri Lanka, which is an island off of India. It's about 50 miles off the coast. And I have not been, but it is on my bucket list. Every picture I see, every video I get from family that is still over there is gut wrenching, to say the least, because it is 75 degrees year round. It is an island that is about, it's about 30 miles or so in diameter. So there's basically an ocean breeze everywhere you go. And I can't wait to go. I can't wait to be there. But I am technically first generation here in the States. So my mom met my dad in college and made home here now almost 60 years ago, which is that's a little bit of my background. And it's been a joy to see, coming from a mixed family. I personally went through just a lot of difficulty growing up, and to see where our country is moving. We haven't fixed it all, but I feel like we're moving in the right direction, and a lot of that has to do with communities and schools. For me, I've been a part of community and schools for a long time. My wife, when she was in college, she actually was part of the Learning Center in Raleigh, right behind Peace Beach. So she volunteered there for a little while and then worked there as well. And then we were connected with that. And then when we moved to Charlotte about 8 years ago, we moved to Charlotte to be a part of Elevation Church in that area. I knew of communities and schools, and I personally was designated to be the Gaston campus pastor. So I was at the Gaston location and called Aaron Farmer up, there's the connection there. So Aaron and I was on that board with Aaron for 6 years and worked my way up, I guess you could say, by default, maybe in some ways, but I ended up being the president of the board there for a little while. And we saw some amazing things. We're able to partner with some great things in the community, provide different ways for families to wash their clothes. We added a lot of washers and dryers to some schools that, again, needs basic necessities. Sometimes are overlooked when it comes to helping families really, and helping students feel like they can move themselves forward within education. We did a lot of camps together there as well. Some Friday night lights, getting some youth off the streets and providing different opportunities for them to, for the girls to get their nails done and do some stuff, for the guys to play basketball, and for all of them to eat hot dogs and have some fun. So I have a background specifically directly connected with communities and schools. My heart is with each and every one of you as you try to impact youth and create better opportunities for them to stay connected and get on the right track in some cases where they've fallen off that track. So thank you all for being amazing and for doing what you do. Hopefully this breakout will also help you continue in that effort. So if you do want to follow me on any social medias, you can. Instagram is my go-to, so I'm at Katie Hester if you wanted to do that. This is my family. So I mentioned Ashley, my wife. We've been together for oh gosh, now 17 years and married for 14. We have the two little ones, as they keep us young. So I'll have to tell you all a little bit more of my story later. But they're two miracle children. We tried for 10 years to have to start a family. And just a few years ago, my son Isaac is 4 now, and my little baby girl Madeline is turning 2 next month. So that's my crew. Uh, this is the Working Genius. So here's a couple things for you guys to know as we get into it. This is the foundation of it. This is a high level. We're going to get into some details. You're going to actually, if you haven't taken the Working Genius assessment, I have marked out time for us all to do that. I'm giving this to you free today as being part of this breakout. So you want to equip you, and I want you to feel like you've got some great tangible ways to move forward. Even if you have taken the assessment, in the slide, we'll give you a brief time to take that. I would love for you to take it again. The link that we're going to share with you, Dorothy's going to share, is for this group. So some of the assessment, some of the takeaways that I'm going to discuss after you take your assessment are directly connected to everyone in this group actually taking it. So even if you've taken the Working Genius assessment, take it again really quickly. It'll confirm some things for you, but more than anything, it's going to help me in the rest of my presentation after we're done with that. Here's some overview for, yep, go ahead.
Can you let me know when you're ready for me to share, and I'll be happy to.
Yep. Perfect. Yep. I'll give you the thumbs up, the cue for it. The foundation, the roadmap that we're on, is kind of multi-step for sure. So there's the model, which we're going to walk through, the 6 types of Working Genius, the 3 stages of work, Working Genius categories, the difference between responsive and disruptive, character traits within them, the altitude of Working Geniuses. Again, all of this will make sense. I just want to kind of give you an idea where we're going, your specific profile, and then the difference between guilt and how to make sure, including your team, if you choose to do Working Genius with your board or with your staff, or even helping youth through it, this is a great indicator of how they are going to get classwork done, right? How they're going to succeed in their jobs and things like that. So the personal application for you, job and career, it'll help you with some planning, some helping, again, youth with their jobs and careers, how it directly affects you and your team, whether that be a board team or staff team, a volunteer team, or employee development. I'm going to actually give you a little bit of homework. Okay, so what would communities and schools be without homework? So I'm going to give you a little bit of homework. It'll be easy, I promise, and some next steps for you as well. So again, the foundation of who we are, where we're going. There are 6 gears. So I want you to think of each gear as turning the other gear. So as you can see, they're kind of connected in this way. So there are 6 gears of the Working Genius. And as we walk through each of these gears, they kind of turn each other. And you'll see the benefit of them. You'll see the collaboration of them together. The first one is wonder. So I'm going to go in and explain to you each of these as soon as I tell you all 6 of them. So wonder is the first gear. The next gear is invention. Then after that, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, and tenacity. Wrap something real quick. So as we walk through all of these, there are 3 stages in each of these areas. What I want to do before I go any further actually is walk through what each of these stand for and how you're going to, in your assessment, you'll see, and maybe even before your assessment, you'll see where you fit in to this model, to these gears. So this one is It's the genius of wonder. And the genius of wonder, actually, wonder is one of my top ones. So this is where I live a lot. I also live in invention. So you'll see as we walk through this, you'll get the top two, kind of a middle two, and a bottom two. The top two are going to bring you the most joy. That's where you thrive. The middle two are kind of where you'll be. It's acceptable. You don't hate what they represent, but you don't necessarily love what they represent either. You can get things done. And then the last two are kind of the ones that you're weakest in. Again, we're going to walk through a lot of this together. I want to give you just a overview of it, so if you're anything like me, you're going to ask questions in advance. Keep them, jot them down. We'll have Q&A as well in kind of each section. Right now, though, wonder is where we're at. Wonder is the people with genius of wonder can't help but question whether things could be better in the world around them, right? So they're troubled whenever they see unmet potential. They're constantly curious, on the lookout for the need to change something. So you're kind of uneasy. You're asking questions a lot. It's not a bad thing that you're asking questions, but it can come across to other people when you ask questions because you're always looking for a better solution. That's kind of a quick overview of wonder. A quick overview of invention is this type of genius is all about creativity. So you're all about it. It's very similar to wonder, but it's from the creative aspect of things. People who have it love to generate new ideas and solutions to problems and are comfortable coming up with something out of nothing. So again, it's that invention of like, well, you could be in a meeting and go, well, what if we did this? And you've got it all planned out. You've got it all maybe even thought through in your brain, but you don't have the details of it. You just have the idea that this is something new. For example, our Friday Night Lights could be an invention kind of thing. Like, we need something to get kids off the streets on Fridays after football games. And you go, oh, we should do a Friday night event. And that's your invention, but you haven't thought through all of the planning and the execution of it, right? So you're inventing things. The wonder person would be like, what if we did an event that helped get kids off of the streets? So you see the difference between the two. It's kind of like what if we did this? And then the invention person is actually maybe going to come up with that event. The genius of discernment, this is where, again, we're walking through each of these, which is pretty incredible, how they work together and fit together. The genius of discernment, the people with this type of genius have a natural ability when it comes to evaluating or assessing the idea or situation and providing guidance. They could have good instincts, a good gut feeling, a judgment about the subtleties of making decisions. A lot of times people will equate this to intuition, right? One's intuition. I've heard that a lot of times, or you just have this gut feeling, right? That discernment, you can't really equate anything to it or attach data to it, but you just feel like something's right or something's wrong. So that's the genius of discernment. That's actually a gift. So for some of you that have wondered, like, I just always have a gut feeling, that is actually a working genius, and we'll get into it a little bit. All right. Galvanizing is the type of genius that it brings great energy and movement around an idea or decision. People who have it like to initiate activity. They like to inspire people to get involved and rally them around to action. So this galvanizing, again, probably a lot of your learning center directors are galvanizers. They're able to work ideas, think things through, get other people, get board members, get people excited about the execution of something new. Then you've got enablement, which is is actually a good thing. Okay, so let me start with that. But enablement is people with this type of respond to the needs of others by offering cooperation and assistance with a project. So a lot of times this is going to be your an administrative assistant, or it's going to be somebody that says, great, what do you need? What resources do you need to help accomplish that? I can help you with I can help you with the tangibles. They naturally provide human assistance that is required in any endeavor, not on their own terms. So they're really the support system to whatever the idea or whatever the invention, the event, the thing is. They may not come up with it, but they'll fully support it. Then tenacity. Tenacity with this type is ensuring that any given project, program, or effort is taken to its completion and achieves the desired result. People who have this genius push forward required standards of excellence and love to see the impact of their work. So this one is, I equate this one more to standards is a good indicator of the tenacity person. They're going, okay, but does that meet the standard of communities and schools? Does that represent who we are? They're coming up with a lot of checks and balances to maybe job descriptions, things like that, because that tenacity is like, all right, just making sure that we don't lose the value of the organization. All right. So there's a brief overview of all of those. What I want to do in these 3 stages here is explain to you how they work together, right? So there are a lot of organizations, actually Nike is a good example. I had an opportunity to sit in a Nike training with some executives, and they were saying that their biggest issue was that they had wonder and invention. They didn't call it wonder and invention, but they had wonder and invention all figured out. And they had enablement and tenacity all figured out. So they would come up with all these great ideas, and then they would have a bunch of executors go out and, hey, let's do this new shoe. And then the new shoe would come out, and it would either succeed or fail. Well, they kept running into this over and over again. And what they realized is that they missed the activation stage, right? So what they introduced was ideation, activation, and implementation. How that translates to the working genius is your ideation is that wonder and invention. What if we did this? This is a great idea. This is a great way to move forward. That's your wonder and invention. What can happen, and sometimes this happens within a specific learning center, right? You could have the director that is wonder and invention, and you could have the administrative assistant who is all tenacity. So they're going and tenacity, great idea, and then execution, but there's no evaluation, there's no activation, there's no discernment or galvanizing of people. So if you do a 5K, or if you do something like that to raise money, you go, all right, great. If you don't galvanize volunteers, if you don't galvanize people around your idea, then it will fall short, or your event, then it will fall short. If you don't have a discerner that is saying, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like us, it doesn't feel right, or it feels great, let's absolutely move forward. If you don't have this middle activation evaluation stage, then sometimes you're going to walk into an event, or you're going to walk into a meeting, you're going to walk into a situation, and it's going to feel like pass fail versus let's learn from this, let's evaluate it, let's make sure, let's be proactive about something rather than reactive about something. So I'm only seeing like 3 or 4 people because I'm in presentation mode. So Dora, can you tell me, can everybody nod their heads and or leave a comment on if that makes sense? If you're like, okay, yes, I can see this ideation, activation, implementation, where you say, yes, that works. Raising hands works too. Thanks, Shanika. We're like, yes, that makes sense. I find myself, or I find our organization, or I find our board in a place of, we're implementing a lot of things, but maybe we don't have any ideation around it, or we're have a bunch of ideas, but we're not actually evaluating it along the way. So this is where Working Genius moves you forward, because you're now able to think in kind of these three buckets. You're able to think, okay, great, who has an idea? It's also important to say, to recognize these within your team meetings. So if you recognize that, well, let's just have an invention or wonder session, right? That might not be your Working Genius. But if you recognize that this session is that, you can kind of make that work. The value of Working Genius is that we have all 6 of these. So everyone on this call, you have all 6 of them. It's not like you have, you have 1 or 2, and then somebody else has 1 or 2. You have all 6 of these. You just thrive and work naturally in 2 of them. You sort of function in 2 of them, and then you really just don't like it. Doesn't mean that you can't, it just means you don't like working in the other 2. So again, I'll give you one quick example before we go on to the next slide. For me, my top 2 are invention and galvanizing. My bottom 2 are enablement and tenacity. Okay, so for me, my credit card statement is enablement and tenacity all day long. Okay, it is the bane of my existence to go through and code everything, to go through and assign and make sure the spreadsheet is right before turning into my accounting department. I cannot stand it. However, it has to be done every month, or lose those privileges, or I can't spend any money. So I don't like doing it, but that doesn't mean I can't do it. So hopefully that's a good clarifier for you as well. You have all 6 of these. I'm sure you function in some things in your job that you don't like to do, or some things in your role, even at home, that you don't like to do. I personally don't like to do dishes, but guess what? They got to get done. So the Working Genius allows you to kind of put a framework into what you like to do, what you don't like to do. And the goal is for you to spend more time doing the things that you love to do, and to then empower and raise up different people with their same love and thrive of what you don't like to do. Because there's somebody out there that you maybe need to hire, or you need to raise up as a volunteer, or you need to add to your board, that has the things that you don't have. We're going to get a little bit more into detail of that, but that's kind of the 3 stages: ideation, activation, implementation. All right. This is just a quick overview. This is what you'll see when you receive your results, right? This is that same thing. These are the quantitative results of that, what your Working Genius is. That's the smiley, as I mentioned before. These are the things that you love. These are the things you're good at. The working competency, right? I can work in that, but it doesn't drain me, but it also doesn't give me joy. Working frustration is the thing, as I mentioned, for me, which is E and T, which is, man, I really hate doing that. I know I have to. But if you're looking at your role, you're looking at your job, you're looking at your board, meeting agenda, or whatever it is, if you're like, man, we're working in a lot of frustration here. If out of your hour meeting or hour and a half meeting, if you're spending most of the time in things that you don't like, then this will help you kind of readjust. Doesn't mean you can't spend any time in that, but it help you readjust maybe your meeting to be more effective. I know everyone loves meeting notes, right? Or meeting minutes, right? Some people enjoy them a bit more than others, but find yourself in that. You go, okay, we can't spend 45 minutes reviewing what we talked about last time, right? We got to let's tighten that up a little bit. Okay. Aaron's probably just laughing at me. All right. So here's what we want to do. We're going to do some Q&A real quick. Let me double check my timing here. Yep, I'm dead on. That's good. Good to go. I want to do maybe 2 minutes of questions. If there's been any questions, Dorothy, if there's been any questions in chat, or if you have anything that is high level based on what we discussed, you may have a question that you go, we have not got there yet. But let's kind of focus on what we've talked about already, and if there's any questions around that we can answer. You can raise your hand too if that works. You don't. I kind of like to hear people if that's an option for you. What
So
happens if you have
we do
more?
have a question. Yes, you see that, Ken?
Yeah, I see it. Yep. What happens if you have more than 2 in your strengths? So the way that the Working Genius is set up is it will, when you answer your questions, if you've taken it already, if you took it early in the process, you may have like a tiebreaker. But brand new within the last 30 days, 60 days, we have updated that process. So it essentially it will make you choose while you're taking the, so it'll automatically define your top 2, your middle 2, and your bottom 2. Good question. Anything else based on what we talked about? Hopefully that means I did a job, or I've confused you all. We'll get there. We'll get there as part of the process. Okay.
Well, no, most people were responding that it was making sense to them. So I think
Good.
you're spot on in your presentation.
Great. All right, what we're going to do then, we're going to jump straight into actual assessment. So Dorothy, if you'll drop that link in for the assessment, you can click on that. It'll take you directly to your Working Genius. And then what you'll do is, well, obviously everybody's muted. Stay on, if you can stay on the call, please do. It should open it up in a different window completely. You can, turn your video off if you want to or whatever, but make sure you stay on the call because I'm going to give you a few minutes. And then once you put in your name, your first name, your last name, and your email address, you submit and you start taking the assessment. We're going to be 10 or 12 minutes. It's a fairly quick assessment, which is another thing that I love about this process. It's not a ton going on. Once you're finished with the assessment, I'll get a notification that everybody's done. We'll be able to just jump in and go from here. So if you want to turn your video off, you can, but make sure you stay on the call. And then I'm going to go ahead and let you go and take the assessment.
Okay, and is everybody able to see the link in the chat? Perfect. Okay, thank you.
All right, you guys are doing great. I think we've got 2 people that have completed it already, so should be getting closer here. Give you another 4 minutes or so. Should be 4 minutes or so. Should have everybody wrapped up.
How are people doing? If you need some more time, does anyone need a couple more minutes? Let us know if you do.
All right. I think we may have a couple more people still finishing up. That's totally fine. I just want to honor everybody's time and make sure that we're on the right page, on the right page. So as you finish up, that's totally fine. But I am going to jump back in to give you guys just some more results as you're more in depth as you're looking, as now you're getting your results. You should also have received your results via email, and I can see all of your responses, which is pretty cool. And we'll get into that here in a second. Let me share my screen again. Oops. Start. I'm going to hit from current slide. All right. So now what we have here is we already talked about a little bit of the 3 categories. There's 2 additional like things for you to keep in mind. There are responsive and disruptive geniuses, right? So wonder, you'll see this dotted line, wonder and discernment and enablement are responsive. So wonder is going to ask a question, and that's a response driven. Discernment is also going to kind of ask a question. They're going to go, is that right? I don't know. My gut feeling isn't this or that. Enablement is also going to kind of do the same thing, right? Like in order to execute whatever the idea is or the direction that you're going, you're going to ask them questions. So they're response oriented. Now, disruptive is not a bad thing, okay? But the other folks are in the gears scenario are a little bit disruptive in nature. So invention, as I mentioned, is one of those things where it's like, all right, this is a new thought. It's a new idea, a new direction. And so if you think of anything new, most people don't like new things. They don't like change. They like things to kind of be the way that they are. You want your bank account to change in the right direction, but not in the wrong direction, right? So you expect the bills to be paid, and you still to have a little bit extra money. Now, if something comes in out of nowhere, then that's disruptive. So any idea, any change, even if it's for the good, sometimes can feel disruptive. So that's okay as part of the process. We just want to make sure that we've got the galvanizing is the same thing. So galvanizing, you're going to gather people. You're going to make sure that you're going to galvanize around an idea, around a situation that's going to be disruptive, because people naturally, as we've probably all learned from COVID, naturally speaking, most people can be loners, right? So they're like, all right, well, let me just get my work done, get things done. I'm going to have my work, my family, my sphere of influence to be pretty much it. So galvanizers want everybody involved. They want as many people as involved as possible, because they see that the more people we get involved, the closer we are to actually accomplishing the goal, right? So 2 better than 1 kind of situation. Tenacity, again, is a disruptor, because they're going to hold to a standard. They're going to make sure that things are done in the right way, and most of the time in the right timing as well. A lot of tenacity folks aren't very late often, because they know what the rules are and they adhere to those rules, and they expect others to adhere to those rules. So again, it's not that you don't have any of those things, but just another layer of understanding when you get your results. You go, okay, well, I've got wonder and galvanizing. Great. Like if wonder and galvanizing are in your top 2, that's not a bad thing. But you know that you're balanced. Some other people are, so mine are invention and galvanizing. Those are my top 2. So I am a disruptor by nature. Okay. Then, but my middle ground of like, all right, it's a competency. It's not, I'm not either for or against anything, are wonder and discernment. So I go, all right, well, I spend some time in wonder, I spend some time in discernment, but they don't necessarily bring me joy. They don't necessarily frustrate me, but it does balance me, right? So you can also kind of see where your balance is, or if you and everybody on your team is responsive. If you have a bunch of people that are WE or DE, or if their top 4 are living in that, maybe they're a TED, or their top 3, then you go, oh wow, okay, They may be a little bit more responsive, and disruptive is a secondary. So you want to balance out your team as best you can, balance out your board, or help people understand that you go, all right, even if you're thinking this way, how do we think like this? If we're all thinking responsively, then are we asking the right questions? Somebody in the chat said something, or I don't know. Oh, beware. I'm the disruptor. Amazing. Very cool. All right, let me see. Here is another great clarifier. This probably helped me understand better than anything else where I fall on this thing. So we've all heard like, hey, let's this at 30,000 feet. Let's look at the 30,000 foot level of things. Your wonder, if there's somebody, if there's a director, or if there's a learning center teacher that is a 30,000 foot, their wonder and invention, if they're in their top 2 or top 3, they're going to be thinking things at 30,000 feet. Your tenacity and enablement person are going to be thinking details, standards, etc. So they're probably going to be frustrated with your wonder or invention person. Why do they keep asking questions? These are the standards. All right. Why do they want to change something? We don't need more ideas. What we need to execute on the ideas that we've already come with. I'm sure that none of this happens on any of your conversations or any of your board meetings. So, but now you get a framework, you get an understanding where that comes from, right? So you go, oh, if you have your board take this, if you have your staff team take this, if you help them understand where they are on the scope, now they'll be able to at least equate why they're thinking this way. Again, think through maybe even leading your meetings, whether they're one-on-ones, whether they're staff meetings or board meetings. If it's a conversation with a student, think about, if you have your student take this, right? There is a slight investment involved with it, but it is like anything else. You're not going to take Myers-Briggs for free, or DISC assessment or anything like that. It's one of the lower ones, and there's a bunch of a half off codes. I'll see if I can find one for you if when we get to the follow-up and next steps. But it's a $25 assessment. If I get a half off code for you, it's $12.50. But what you do is you're like, okay, great. What we can figure out is where you are on the scale and maybe why you're frustrated. If you're frustrated, or your team is frustrated, or your board is frustrated, it may be because you're in too many of the details and you need to lead that meeting at times at a 30,000 foot level. If you're going into a new year, or you're going into a new calendar year, when you're talking through events, you're talking through effectiveness of those events. Those are two separate conversations. And oftentimes we have them as the same. All right, let's talk about events. Well, then you've got your wonder and invention people all thinking about 2022 events and the new events that we need to do and the new ways that we need to do them. And then you've got your tenacity people that are actually, their default is to think of the effectiveness of the previous events, not new events, not changing events. They're going to want to talk. So you're going to want to frame your board meeting. I'm just using an example. You want to frame your board meeting in this way. Let's talk through new events and ideas for new events. That's one section of your meeting. Another section of your meeting, maybe for 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever, another 10 or 15 minutes is going to be dedicated toward the effectiveness of last year's events. This is going to help the working geniuses in the room, depending on their genius, work together. Okay? How's that? Yays, nays? Helpful? A little bit? All right. Tristan's giving me the I don't know. We'll see if it works or not. Look, yes, I called you out. Some people don't put their videos on because now I can only call out 3 or 4 people. Good. All right. Here's what else we're going to look at. All right. We want to, in your profile, you want to clarify quantitative and qualitative sections. You want to say, all right, let's explain this in a way that, as I did, what's a competency, what's a frustration, what's a genius? Because when you look at your results, you're going to want to find out what your fulfillment is and what your capability is. So your fulfillment in your job, in your role, in whatever, that is based on your genius. If you are looking at your team, your volunteers, your board, and they don't feel fulfilled, they look bored, they're not the capacity that they're running, it doesn't seem to be effective. Maybe because they're too much of the same. It may be because they aren't seeing the value of the other people on the team or on the board. And you're going to want to say, all right, what brings you as an individual and us as a team joy? That is your working genius. I'm using joy as an example because that really is your genius. When you're working in your genius, you feel fulfilled and you feel like I'm accomplishing something. If you're working in your frustration, then you're going to feel like I'm not doing anything. This is taking up all my time. This is boring. This is, again, frustrating. Again, not if you think of your work week or your work day and as a 0 to 100%, about 20% of your day should be in your frustration. For me, tenacity is a thing. It's emails, it's follow-ups, it's things that I don't necessarily want to do. But for a season in college, I worked at First Union Mortgage as a mortgage loan officer. I hated all 3 months of my summer that year because that was all tenacity and it was all enablement. It was all follow-up, it was all email, it was all filing. That is not who I am. I am an invention galvanizer. My boss was frustrated with me because I was walking around trying to talk to people, trying to get people to go to lunch together. Like that's who I was. I didn't know that. I didn't have the framework of understanding that's who I was at the time. But now I look back and I realize, like, the reason that I was frustrated in that job was because that was not my working genius. There are people, obviously, there are tons of mortgage loan officers, and I'm grateful for them. I got a lower interest rate because of them, right? But that's not who I am. So the joy and the disdain, clarifying what works and what doesn't, is what's really going to help you and your team. And again, your students. Like, think about your students in this way. Like, does this make sense for them? Here are common problems. This is a part of my role or job. We talked about that. I don't like my results, right? Sometimes things change in your life. Sometimes things change in your season. It's really trying to understand why you are in the way that you are, maybe understanding having a better understanding of your results. You may look at them and say, I don't know, that might not be right, that might be wrong. And maybe because you took it in 10 minutes, right? Like, maybe if you had a little bit more time, anything. I have a faith background. And so I'm just going to say, there are very few things in life that are 100% correct. I can only think of one. Again, I'm not going to get into that, but I have a faith background. So I don't think of anything else as being 100%. So don't think of this as results here as like, well, that's who I am. It can be wrong, just like any other assessment. So Should you develop your working frustrations? That's a common question that we get a lot. I don't know if you can develop them. What I feel like you can do is you can, again, in a percentage world, minimize the time that you're spending in your frustration. How do you do that? Surround yourself, surround your people, surround your staff, surround volunteers with people that love to do the thing that is a frustration for you. I'll go back to one quick example and then we'll move on. Again, with my frustration, it is I have my admin assistant help me with 60% of my credit card thing. I'm like, all right, great. You pull all the emails with receipts in them and you code them. Great. Then I'll take care of the rest. So I'll code and pull the receipts that I know. But if we have a shared thing that she ordered, then great. I don't have to worry about that. So I minimize my frustration. All right. Here's some famous leaders, a little tongue in cheek for you. Michael Scott. Okay. For those of you, the Office fans, he's a wonder in invention. He's all over the place. He's always doing something crazy. Jim Halbert is invention and discernment, right? Like he's going to go with his gut feeling on a lot of things. Pam is going to be your enablement and discerner. She's going to feel right. And for those of you that watch The Office, you get it better than anybody else, right? Dwight, of course, is tenacity. He is all about the company policy. This is the way we do it. He's also got some invention in there as well, right? But think of fun ways to apply this as well. Like you'll see it probably more in your life in different areas. Personal impact. Don't make anybody feel guilty on your team. Don't feel guilty yourself. Don't judge others or judge yourself based on your results, right? Naturally, again, in a lot of personality assessments, a lot of strength finders and things like that, those aren't bad assessments, but a lot of times, naturally speaking, or maybe we've even been told to work on your weaknesses. For working genius, this is how you work. This is how you get things done. So focus on spending more time in the things that you love to do and get those things done. And in the process, as part of it, set yourself some timelines, some ways to move forward in saying, this is how I can enable some volunteers. This is how can I empower some other staff members. This is maybe how I need to hire, or how I need to restructure my budget for next year or in the next 2 years in order to get out of some of the details that I'm in. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean that you're going to be frustrated all the time. It means now you've got some handles to hold on to and to begin to take steps to move forward in working in your genius and limiting your frustration. All right, Q&A. Time for questions, if you have them. This, again, as I mentioned, is like high level, 1 hour. This isn't this thing that, I'm going to answer all your questions in an hour, but it's going to give you a framework to be successful moving forward.
Okay, I have a question for you. How would you advise someone to articulate where they stand, what their working geniuses are, to someone who may or may not be familiar with what it is we're even talking about?
Yeah, so when you get your results, there's I kind of showed you a little bit of, all right, this is where I stand in my working genius. Why don't you try it? People are always trying Enneagrams or trying anything that you throw out to them. We're all trying to get better some way. What I love about this specific one, as I mentioned before, is that it really has more to do with how you get things done and work. So if it's things around, even if it applies to your family, things that you get done around the house, things that you get done, these are the chores that I like to do versus the chores I don't like to do. Why is that? All right. You'll be able to assess a little bit better because this is work. This isn't personality. You can join this in with Enneagrams and all the other things, but this is really, like, at the end of the day, task oriented stuff. Does that help? Cool. So as probably with any other breakout or any presentation, there's lots of questions. There's lots of things that we didn't get to. We talked a lot about teams, but there are some next steps that I really feel like could benefit you and your teams. And it's like, how does this apply to projects? How do we change different staffing or make the right decisions, make it forward? What are our what are some good diagnostic questions? If you want to have a ongoing conversation, then absolutely reach out to me. No problems whatsoever in setting up a phone call with you individually or your team. Again, I love communities and schools. I know the budgets that we don't have moving to do a lot of this stuff. So, you know, I want to be able to help move communities, schools, and you forward in any way we can. So it's why I did this breakout. I donated what they offered back to communities and schools, because that's what needs to happen. I'm not just going to tell you about the assessment and then hope that you find the link. I paid for those assessments for all of you to take today, because I believe this will help move your session forward. Move your organization forward, move yourself forward. So what I would love for you to do is, again, share that working genius with somebody in your life, because as you understand you, there may be a spouse or a friend or a roommate that also you can bounce this stuff off of. A conversation needs to happen. Maybe it's a coworker or whatever, but a conversation can happen very easily. You can see a lot of results in mapping and things like that on your own. I'll show you the map that we took as a team, and that will also help see, you'll see kind of where the next steps would be, right? Let me show you that right now, just to kind of an idea of the map as a whole, which gets really fun to see. Team map.
And then Ken, while you're pulling that up, I want to remind everyone, we put the survey link also in the chat. And so if you will be kind enough to complete the survey on this session and give all of your great feed forward information, share that with our team. As a reminder, it's in the chat.
Thinking about it. There we go. All right, let me show this one time for the last time, and then we'll let you all go. Share. Get it? My internet's being weird now, of course.
There's also a reminder from our CEO to join us for drawings and for closing remarks, and you have to be present to win. And so that's going to be on Friday, but be sure to join us. Or no, I'm sorry, that's for today as well. Is that for today as well, Jill?
It is.
Yes.
It starts
Yes,
at
yes.
about 3 minutes.
In about 3 minutes. So
So
be sure to join us for
apologize.
drawings and closing remarks.
Yeah. So I apologize. The team map's not loading, but what's really cool is it'll show you, and I'll maybe work with Dorothy to send this out to everybody. It'll show you everyone's working genius, competency, and frustration. And then you'll be able to see essentially where your team like functions the best and where you maybe need to add some things in there as well. The kind of last thing that I wanted to share with all you is these next steps, this homework for you. It's what are your personal takeaways? What are you going to do? Write down three teams or individuals that you maybe would like to work on Working Genius with. And then if you need me for anything, I'm going to drop my my email in here for everyone to have. And I'd love to answer any further questions that you might have regarding Working Genius. And finally, just thank you for your time. Thank you for all that you do. You don't get enough thanks for all the behind the scenes and really moving youth forward in North Carolina and the impact that they have on really our country in the future is because of what you do and the investment that you have. So I know it's a lot of long hours and a lot of hard work that is often unseen and unthanked, but from somebody that has seen a little bit and experienced a little bit, there aren't enough thanks for all of you. So thank you for being a part of today and for all you do in your everyday work life.
And thank you, Ken. We certainly appreciate this informative session. And if everyone could just give Ken, use your reactions and give him show him some appreciation for his presentation today. Great job. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy the rest of the conference. And again, join us for the wrap-up session for drawings and closing remarks.